recognizing our veterans. And if you'll just raise your hand, thank you for your service to our country. Let's give them another round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, it's because of their service, because of their sacrifice, that we're able to gather here tonight without the fear of persecution. It is because of their service, because of their sacrifice, that we enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy, that we exercise the rights that we exercise. And one of the greatest freedoms that we have in this country is the freedom to elect our officials. Right now, we've got early voting going on. That is one of the greatest freedoms that we have, is to vote. If you have not voted, you've got until Friday for the early voting, and then next Tuesday, the 19th, is the primary. Please get out and vote. Let's honor our veterans who sacrificed and served for us to give us that right. Let's honor them by getting out and voting. Folks, I'm Buddy Carter, and I'm running for the United States Senate. And let me tell you why. The reason why is because we do not have a senator from the state of Georgia who represents our values.
That's right.
John Ossoff does not represent your values. He doesn't represent my values. He doesn't represent Georgia values. We need someone from this state who's going to be serving in the Senate who represents our values. John Ossoff, who voted against funding the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security, which includes, yes, it includes ICE, yes, it includes Customs and Border Patrol, yes, it includes Secret Service, yes, it includes TSA, it also includes FISA. Right now, we're in a conflict with Iran. Right now, we're in a conflict. And we need the Department of Homeland Security financed. And we need them, we need to appropriate money for them. We need them now more than ever. Here we are in a conflict with the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world for the last 47 years. We would be naive to think that they're not going to try to do something against us. You know they are. That's why we need the Department of Homeland Security funded. We need to get them funded. And look, John Ossoff and the Democrats, they want to defund the police. That's nothing more than what they're doing right now. And yes, I know we've had some problems. We had some problems up in Minneapolis, and there were tragedies where we had people killed and our own citizens killed. That would not have happened if the Democratic leadership in those cities had cooperated with ICE and made sure that we were getting rid of the criminal illegal immigrants. That's right. The same one who killed Laken Riley right here at the University of Georgia. The same ones who in my hometown of Savannah, Georgia, about a month ago, Dr. Linda Davis, a beloved elementary school teacher, special education teacher, she was killed by an illegal immigrant who was fleeing ICE, resisting arrest, and crashed into her. This past weekend, we had a 47-year-old father, husband, who was killed in a head-on collision with an illegal immigrant in Effingham County in our district by an illegal immigrant who had a blood alcohol content of 1.98. Georgia legal limit's 0.8. And it gets worse than that, folks. His wife was on the phone with him at the time. Can you imagine? That's the ones that we're after. That's the ones we're trying to get rid of first. Now, we'll deal with the others later, yes. But we're trying to get rid of the criminal illegal immigrants first. That's what the president is trying to do. That's what Department of Homeland Security is trying to do. That's what ICE is trying to do. John Ossoff, he's opposed to it. For 4 years, he supported the open border policies of the Biden-Harris administration, resulting in 15 million illegals coming into this country. We would be naive to think that there weren't some criminal illegal immigrants there. Yes, there were. We know that the Latin American countries were emptying their prisons and sending their prisoners over here. Those are the ones we're after right now. Right now, we've got a problem in the Senate, and it's called the filibuster, and we need to do away with the filibuster. And let me tell you why. We need to pass the Save America Act. What will the Save America Act do? It will make sure that you have to have a photo ID in order to vote. You got to have a photo ID for everything. John Ossoff, he opposes it. He opposes it, even though 80% of Americans say you should have it. And oh, by the way, if you want to go to John Ossoff's rally, guess what? You got to have a photo ID. Yet he doesn't want you to have a photo ID in order to vote. Folks, that's not our values. We have got to get rid of John Ossoff. Last thing that I'll say about him, talked enough about him. Last thing I'll say about him. Folks, I'm blessed. I've got 3 sons, 3 daughter-in-laws. I've got 8 grandchildren, including 6 precious granddaughters. I do not want my granddaughters having to compete against a biological male in sports. I do not want my granddaughters to have a biological male in their locker room or in their bathroom. Not my precious granddaughters. I don't want John Ossoff. He's voting for that. That's not our values. That's why we got to change. We got to have a change in the Senate. Now look, this is important. We've lost the last 3 Senate races in a row. We lost David Perdue. We lost Kelly Loeffler. We lost Herschel Walker. We got to win this thing. Now I want to tell y'all real quickly about myself, okay? My granddaddy was a sharecropper. He didn't own the land. He worked the land. I can remember my daddy taking me down a dirt road where he grew up in Cobbtown, Georgia, in Tattnall County. And taking me down there and saying, we used to live here, we used to live here, we used to live here. They lived wherever the land was they were working. My daddy left Cobbtown, Georgia, and left the tobacco fields, and he went to Savannah, and he got him a job working, shift work in a paper mill at Union Bag. He told me, he said, son, when I got that bag, I took every penny I had in my pocket, and I put gas in my car, and I rolled the windows down, and I just rode around hollering out the window, I got a job at Union Bag. I got a job. He was so glad to get out of those tobacco fields. He provided for my wife and I, my sister and I, and my mother. I left home the day I turned 18. I'm 18, I'm out of here. It just so happened to be the day I turned 18. Went up to Young Harris College. Young Harris College at that time was a 2-year school. That's where I met my bride. I met her, and we've been together for 50 years. We've been married 47 and a half years. Zell Miller, our former governor, our former senator, wrote a book called The Mountains Within Me, and he equated Young Harris College as being like a shoe factory because things come out in pairs. I went up to Young Harris College with Frank Ginn's brothers, Charlie and Candler, and I survived, even though I had to go to school with them. But anyway, both of them did, didn't they? We all came out with a wife. Anyway, I came down here to University of Georgia for 3 years and got my degree in pharmacy. And I want to tell y'all, back then, my wife's a year older than me. I always poke at her about that. She's a year older than me. So anyway, she went to physical therapy school in Augusta, and after she graduated, my last 2 years here in Athens, we got married, and we lived in married housing. And we had a furnished apartment, $135 a month, furnished. Can you believe that? She worked at St. Mary's Hospital as a physical therapist. She made $12,000 a year. And let me tell you, folks, we had more money in our pocket then than we have now. I mean, it was the best of times, no question about it. Anyway, when I graduated from the University of Georgia, I swore up and down when I left home I'd never go back. And guess what was the first thing I did when I got out of school? I went straight back home. Maybe y'all can explain it to me. I don't understand it. My daddy went from being the dumbest man I'd ever met to the smartest man I'd ever met. That happens. And that happened to me. I worked for someone for 8 years, learned the pharmacy business, and then on November 21st, 1988, I opened my own store. I grew it to 3 pharmacies, and then I had another business that serviced nursing homes and personal care homes. I didn't have the honor of serving in our military, so I wanted to give back to my community that had blessed me in so many ways. So I volunteered, and I served on the Planning and Zoning Committee. And then I ran for city council, and then I ran for mayor. Then I ran for state rep. Then I ran for state senate. Then I ran for Congress. Now I'm running for the United States Senate. That's why I'm asking y'all to vote for me. I can't keep a job, so I need a job, okay? I need a job, guys. But my point is that I've been serving for a long time, and yes, I have a lot of experience. And you know, people ask me from time to time, they say, buddy, you've been a mayor, you've been in state legislature, you've been in Congress, you ever feel important? And I tell them the truth. Yes, there was a time I felt important. And I will tell you, it's an honor to serve in the state legislature, as Frank will tell you. It's an honor to serve in Congress, obviously. But when you're the mayor, you're the man. That's all it is. I'm just telling you, you are. And I remember when I got elected mayor, I had the business, and you know, like many of you are small businessmen, and you know what I'm talking about. There is nothing that you don't do. And for me, it was the same thing every morning. I went straight to the back, I got my broom, I got my trash picker up, or I went up front and I swept and I picked up trash. That's just what you do when you're in a small business. But this was a different day because I'm the mayor now. So I walked behind the technician and she's typing away, and I said, She said, well, congratulations. I said, well, thank you. I am the mayor. And I said, well, wait a minute. Now that I'm the mayor, have I still got to go out front and sweep and pick up the trash? She didn't miss a beat. She didn't even bat an eye. She just shot right back at me. She said, if you want it done, you do. Well, I thought I was over it. I guess I wasn't, because later on I went to the nursing home and I was sitting there checking charts and making recommendations for drug therapy, and there was this sweet lady sitting across from me. She was minding her own business. I guess my mind got to wondering, and I looked over at her. I said, excuse me, ma'am, but do you know who I am? She looked at me. She said, no. I said, you mean to tell me you don't know who I am? She said, no, I don't know who you are. By this time, I was pretty frustrated. I just looked down and shook my head. I said, I can't believe you don't know who I am. And she was so sweet. She got up out of the chair she was sitting in, and she kind of shuffled over there where I was at, and she put her hand on my shoulder. She said, honey, if you'll go over there to that nurse's station, they'll tell you who you are. So after that, I did not think I was important anymore. But folks, I'll tell you what is important. What is important is that we get rid of John Ossoff. We have got to win this election. We've lost 3 in a row. We've got 2 Democratic senators in a Republican state. He does not represent our values. In order to win this race, we've got to have the best player on the field. Kirby Smart will tell you, you put your best player on the field, the one who's going to give you the chance of winning, the best chance of winning. Let me tell you why I'm that person. I don't have any baggage. Now look, the other guys, I'm not saying anything about them, but I'm going to tell you they got baggage. Now Derek, I love Vince. I was here when Vince was here. Derek Dooley, he's voted once in 20 years. He's never voted for Donald Trump. Once in 20 years. If he's our candidate, we lose. And the reason why is because all of a sudden it's not going to be about John Ossoff's voting record. It's going to be about this guy hasn't voted but once in 20 years. And he's never voted for Donald Trump. That's what it's going to be about. Mike Collins, you look it up. Right now he is under federal investigation for misusing taxpayers' funds. He is under federal investigation for misusing taxpayers' funds by a bipartisan committee of Congress. 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans voted 10-0 to look at this, to take it further. If he's our candidate, we lose. The reason we lose is because it's not going to be about John Ossoff's voting record. It's going to be about this guy's under federal investigation. You can't have a distraction like that. I don't have any baggage. Folks, I promise you 3 things. I will never embarrass you. I will never embarrass you. I will work as hard as I can work. And I will win. And that's what we got to do. We got to win. Remember Vince Lombardi? Remember what he said? Winning's not everything. It's the only thing. We got to win. And you got to put your best player on the field. I don't have any baggage. I'll go toe-to-toe with John Ossoff. Let me ask you something. Who's carrying the message? Who do you see on Fox News? Who do you see on Fox Business? Who do you see on Newsmax? Who are you going to see this Sunday on CNN with Scott Jennings fighting the Democrats? You see me. I've been on Fox News all the time. I'm on there just about every week. Fox Business just about every week. I'm carrying the message. I'm articulating the message. I'm delivering the message. We got to win. We got to win this race. We got to put our best candidate on the field, the one who can give us the best chance of winning. That's why I'm here asking you to vote for me today. I was told that we were going to have some questions and answers, and I'll be glad to let you run it.
I will.
Okay.
There's a rule. We are taking questions, not your diatribe, not you going off on your tangent or what promoting your Amway or whatever. We're not doing it. But you're welcome to ask a question to Congressman Carter. Okay, so.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Right here, John.
Where do you stand on balancing the budget that is out of control in our debt?
You talking about the budget that has $39 trillion in debt? That's the one you're talking about, $39 trillion. I serve on the budget committee. Folks, the number one responsibility of the federal government, the number one responsibility is to protect our homeland and protect our citizens. And we can only do that through a strong defense. Right now, with a $39 trillion debt, we are paying more on the interest alone on our debt than we're paying for defense. We can't continue that. Our Joint Chiefs of Staff, they have said the greatest threat to this country is not Russia, it's not China, it's our debt. We've got to get this under control. And that's what we're trying to do on the budget committee. We're trying to say, okay, right now we're 6% between GDP and our debt. Let's chop it down to 3%. We get it down to 3%, then we can get it down to 2%, then we can get it down to 1%. Get it down to something that we can, how do you eat an elephant? You eat an elephant a bite at a time. We're not going to be able to do it in 1 year, but if we are determined, we can do it in a short period of time. And we got to do it. Ronald Reagan said years ago, and he was right, we don't have a revenue problem in Washington, D.C. We got a spending problem. We got to quit spending so much. Let me tell you what I've done for that. We did the Working Families Tax Cut Act. The Working Families Tax Cut Act, which has put more money in your pocket. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, increased child care tax credit. Put $5,000 a year on average to the Georgia taxpayers. We did that. And that is certainly important, to put more money in your pocket. And when we did that, that was one of President Trump's promises, that he would make us more prosperous. John Ossoff voted against that. He didn't want your taxes to go down. We made sure your taxes go down. In that bill, the Working Family Tax Cut Act, I was chair of the Health Subcommittee. We were responsible in the Energy and Commerce Committee for $1 trillion in cuts. $800 billion of that $1 trillion came from my subcommittee. From my subcommittee as chair of the Health Subcommittee. We made sure that illegals weren't going to be on Medicaid. John Ossoff wanted illegals on Medicaid. He wants illegals on Medicaid. We said, no, you're not going to be on Medicaid. We cut out $800 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse, making sure that we've got people on Medicaid who are supposed to be on Medicaid. That's the way we're going to get our budget under control, by cutting our spending like that and doing away with waste, fraud, and abuse.
Okay. Another question?
Yes, Representative. I heard from Cleta Mitchell recently that she would like, you know who Cleta Mitchell is?
I think so.
She's working on the Hill for election integrity.
Yes.
Yes. She has been trying to get the Senate to move on the Save America Act. It's not happening.
Question?
So would you commit, this is her suggestion, would you commit to putting the Save America Act on must-pass legislation from the House so that when it gets over to the Senate, they have to vote on it?
Absolutely. Not only that, but I'll go you one step further. Put me over in the United States Senate, we'll do away with the filibuster and we'll get the Save America Act passed. That's the problem with it now. They can't get 60 votes in the Senate to get it passed.
So we need it now.
We need it absolutely now. But if we can't get it until next year when I'm in the Senate, I promise you we will get it, because I'll make sure and I'll vote to get rid of that filibuster. How am I doing?
You're good.
I'm good.
One more.
One more.
Back.
Yes, sir.
Are you in favor of banning congressional stock trading?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. and let me make sure that I understand, that you understand. We were asked this at debate, and I kind of said, well, I don't trade stocks. There are a lot of people who do in Congress, and yes, it is wrong. I've never gotten any kind of insider information on the committees I serve on. Maybe I'm on the wrong committees, but anyway, I've never gotten any information. But I don't trade my stocks at all. I've got people who do it for me, and that's the way it ought to be. Either in a blind trust or having someone who is going to manage it for you like I've done. Yeah, I know there are a lot of people in Congress who that's going to upset them. They want to be able to trade stocks, but it's simply been abused, and we've got to do away with it, and I agree.
Thank you.
That it?
That it.
All right, can I finish with this? This last thing, I promise you. Folks, we live in the greatest country in the world.
Amen.
We live in the greatest country in the world. Don't try to tell me we don't. I've lived the American dream. My daddy wasn't a legendary football coach. He wasn't a congressman. He didn't leave me a business. My daddy worked shift work in a paper mill. My daddy worked hard. He taught me how to work hard. Folks, you hear about people trying to break into this country, but you don't hear about anybody trying to break out.
Amen.
And like President Trump, I still believe our greatest times are ahead of us. That's why I'm asking you to vote for me for the United States Senate, so that I can go to the Senate and I can help President Trump deliver on those greatest times. Thank y'all for having us here tonight.